He's going to get on top of these Cyclones on the right side and knocks them down. And now, without the Cyclones and the Hellions buffering, Biles can knock these tanks down ever so slowly. They can do what they want. And by the way, 18 SCVs have fallen. Serral's done an excellent job of crisis management right now. Man, I am so excited to bring you all this series. This is the Grand Finals of IEM Katowice. This is a $150,000 best of 7. And in the upper right, representing Team Vitality in the red, it's Maru. His opponent, the man who has dropped a single map in this tournament thus far for Basilisk, it's Serral. And as I said in the opening, this is a $150,000 best of 7. If you win, you get $150,000. You lose, it's like 75. It's a significant difference, and it's worth EPT points. Of course, both players here have already qualified for the Esports World Cup. That'll be happening in August. But again, $150,000, the prestige of being the IEM Katowice champion, and in the context of Serral and Maru, undisputed claim to the status of GOAT, of best player of all time. Well, maybe not Maru, because Maru doesn't quite have the foreign accolades, does not quite have, honestly, the consistency that Serral has had since 2018. But I think absolutely, if Serral wins best player of all time, it's not a question anymore. Maybe Maru wins EWC, and we start to have this discussion again. But if Serral gets another Katowice, one of the larger first place prizes that we've ever had, and again, last year, same prize pool, 500K, the first place prize was not 150. There were more players in the tournament, again, so it shapes out a little bit. But anyways, this is game 1 of this series. Maru and Serral both have kind of stomped their way through the tournament thus far. The only time that Serral looked even remotely challenged, really, was against Dark in the round of 8, or excuse me, in the round of 4 in game 1, but otherwise he looked really solid. Only time that Dark ever looked challenged was like one game against Cure, but for the most part, and I guess Cyan technically, he lost a series of Cyan in the group stage. But once the playoffs started, really these two players, they have been by far, obviously, the best two players in the tournament. Serral's run has been just a little bit harder. Probably he had to go take down Clem, then take down Dark, and now he's going to have to take down Maru. That is arguably a little bit more difficult than Maru having to take down Cure and having to take down Hero Marine. Actually, excuse me, no. Maru having to take down Beyond and then Cure. Of course, Cure took down Hero Marine. So, again, arguably, it's a little bit harder of a run for Serral. He's having to show more of his matchups. But at the end of the day, both these players have looked absolutely fantastic. You know, Serral's dropped less matches, dropped a single map to Dark last round, but that is about it. Anyways, we got some interesting things happening here very early on. There's a Roach Warren down. We're seeing a second gas getting added in, and there's a lair on the way. This is Hecate. This is a map that can be pretty hard for Zergs because there are bases that the Terrans can take that realistically Serral just can't. So getting aggressive early on makes a lot of sense. You go across the map, you get a Roach Warren. You, in this case, looks like it's likely gonna be maybe some German taxi type of Queen Walk style. Nidus is on the table with triple gas, but I haven't really seen a lot of Roach type of Nidus play. So anyway, and there we go. So Overlord speed's on the way. This is again gonna be that German taxi Queen drop type of thing that we have seen. Now this gets a little interesting because Maru's opening Banshees, which is the entire point of the Queens, because there's also going to be a lair done. Again, a very quick lair. We're 4 minutes in, and this lair is just about complete. You can get an Overseer as well, which means this Banshee, this powerful defensive tool against Roach pressure, against Roach Ravager pressure, it's gone. It's not nearly going to be the defensive tool that a player like Maru is going to be looking for to stay alive, really, in this early game, in this mid game. So the Roaches are going to start to run across the map very quickly. Dropper Lord's about halfway done. And the question now is whether Serral opts to move out early. And the answer is no. He's going to wait for his Dropper Lord. He's going to shepherd the Dropper Lord across with these Roaches. So they're all going to stay together. And this is not only the Dropper Lord keeping the Roaches safe. It's the Roaches keeping the Dropper Lord safe. Vice versa, whichever way you want to talk about it. It's very much true. And these Hellions, they got to run back home. They saw the Roaches, absolutely. They know what's happening. But just because you know what's happening does not mean that you are prepared to defend against it. So the Banshee's here, sure, and it's going to get damage to one Roach, but Ravager immediately gets dropped. And now Maru's aware of the Queens. Now Maru is aware of what's happening. He's aware of what he has to be afraid against. He knows these Banshees are not going to be nearly as powerful as they might otherwise be. So the Queens drop out. The Banshees take some damage. But the second thing you want to do with these Queens here, you want to drop some creep. You want to put that Overlord. You want to put it down. Start spreading some creep tumors. You want to make sure these Queens, not only are they this powerful anti-air force, you want to make sure that they can transfuse. You want to make sure that they can keep these roaches alive. You want to make sure that they can keep themselves alive. And that's exactly what's going to happen. So first creep tumors down. The third base of Maru is taking some damage, but it's flying. Even if the Queens are here, I mean, Queens do very little anti-air damage. That's the problem. Big problem, though. Maru is supply block. He can't build anything more right now. The bunker number 1's going to go down. It's not 7 Ravagers, it's 4, but with target fire and the Biles as well, this second bunker should fall down. SCVs are starting to fall here as well, but the Queens are getting low. The Queens are getting targeted down. One Banshee still here on the repair, and Serral, he's gotten a ton of damage. Absolutely. He has done so much damage. 13 dead SCVs. Delay on that third base. It's all incredibly important. But he's not killed Maru. And the Banshee's still here. He's going to lose some of these roaches on the rejoinder. He's going to lose some of these roaches on the counterattack, which means that, yeah, actually, importantly, if Maru gets what he wants, he's going to get some Ravagers as well. That's pretty important to point out, right? Just because Maru took a lot of damage, and he did. He took a ton of damage. Serral did commit to this. He's on 72 drones right now, but he did cut drones for this. He did delay some of his tech. This Banshee cloaked the entire way across. A bit of a mistake. The Banshee's just dead. Well, that's not good. Maru, 13 workers down the drain, a 30 worker deficit, but he did keep his third base alive. All right, he did keep that third orbital alive. He can build them 3 at a time. He can drop mules. All of these things are really useful, but he's going to have this timing now. He's going to have his upgrades faster. His combat shields are already done. Medevac's starting to hit the field just a little bit more. He's going to have this timing when his army is significantly more powerful than what Serral has. Serral, of course, not sticking at the 1-1. He's not going to hit a follow-up big Roach Ravager or just pure Roach timing. Because honestly, on Hecate, that's not easy to do. The natural is decently choked up, and diving into the area that you actually want to break is pretty hard. The third base is, again, not all that wide open. Plus, you got to go up a ramp or kind of come from an awkward angle. Instead, Serral's going to use this to get into the late game, to get himself into the next stage of tech. So Infestation Pit's down. Baneling Nest is on the way. Of course, Roach Speed is nice. You're adding that, but Link Speed on the way as well. So Serral is going to transition out of this. The Roaches for right now are just to make sure he stays safe. Are just to make sure that Maru on this 1-1 timing, that Maru, as he tries to find a Ravager, but he's not going to get it because the Roaches are here, that Maru doesn't really hit the counterattack that he's really looking for. So Marines will die, sure. And look at what Serral's doing with this Dropper Lord, by the way. He just got a couple from earlier. Well, actually, no, this is new Dropper Lords, but he's using it to spread creep even better, which is something that's been theorized for quite a while. Dropper Lord Queens to poop creep in places and drop tumors and just make the Terran push that much harder to really get aggressive on it. He's not going to get that tumor down, but he has unlocked so much creep on the map right now, which is also incredibly important because all of his creep queens initially, they were floated onto the other side of the map. They were part of that attack, and Serral did try to bring the creep from Maru's base back to his, but Maru did clear that up. So Serral's doing a really nice job by shoving the edge of the creep much, much further forward for how many queens he has and how much time he's had to go spread the creep. So really cool idea coming out of Serral. And now, well, Maru, again, he's unlocked on the map. He's got 1-1, but so too does Serral. And Maru's forgotten his armor upgrade, so any sort of upgrade advantage that he had off the double eBay, off the initial opener, it's not really going to be there for 2-2. It's not going to show itself really easily. Now, Hive is done. Adrenal glands are on the way. You're adding in Vipers as well to shut down any sort of tanks, to get up ducks, and more importantly than anything else, to provide some modicum of anti-air, to drop parasitic bombs on these medevacs as they run across, to shut down some of the multitasking that Maru may be looking for. Serral loses an Overlord. But now as Serral gets even later into this game, yeah, he's losing creep a little bit, sure. But he's got an Ultra Cavern halfway done. Adrenal Glands, again, on the way. Baneling Nest is done. Banelings are being morphed, and Baneling Speed as well, which is just fantastic. I love this. I have legitimately... Okay, so poop and creep on a base. You've seen that, absolutely. But seeing Serral be so aggressive with 2 queens and a Dropper Lord to spread creep, I legitimately don't think I've ever seen this. Maybe temporarily. but not to this extent. You know, it won't slow the third base or the fourth base down out of Maru too long, but it does slow him down really just as much as a Burrowed Ling does. And hey, you don't have to spend a Ling on it. And granted, Lings are really cheap in this game state when you're on 5 or 6 bases, but even still, it's awesome as Lings are going to try to get on top of these tanks as well. Abduct on that one, ideally not spending any Banes on it. The answer is no. Now, with a Blinding Cloud on top of the tanks, you're moving a little bit further forward. Serral spends a ton of Banelings on that one, though, so he gets some SCVs. He does force a lift off. He gets a couple tanks, but he's not really going to be able to go any further because, again, the Baneley count's a little bit low. But these roaches from earlier on that are not useful for Serral anymore. They're going to get sacrificed, but they get another 6 drone or 6 SCVs. So Serral gets damage done. He does some really cool stuff with how he's spreading his creep, which I'm just a massive fan of. But more importantly, he trades some of his bad units away for value, for shutting down the economy of this Terran that has already been severely hindered. And behind this, he's got 4 ultras. Chitinous plating is just about done. +2 attacks on the way. +3 armors on the way. He's got this timing where these ultras are going to be nigh unkillable against these 2-1 Marines. It's just not very good. Maru thinks he can make something happen. He's down about 20 army supply, but again, there are still roaches and ravagers in this army. That supply is a little bit more of a lie. Is now Maru's going to force the double cancel on this 7th base. This co 7th base out of Serral, which again, Serral's economy is going like gangbusters. Even if he had to cancel that one, he's got 5 bases for just forever. He's got the mixed base, the hybrid base on the right side of Hecate, which taking this early is actually so important as our Zerg player. Because technically, if Maru's able to drag this out, the game's able to go on, it is so hard to take these middle bases. It's one of the reasons why this map is so good for Terran and so bad for Zerg. You just cannot hold on to those middle bases, and the Terran much more easily can. So they're just kind of bases that are it's a base. They're bases that Terran's going to have again, so it's just a bit of a problem. Now this planetary on the north side is going to get knocked down. The ultras are going to secure that one, and again, key thing here, Serral doesn't spend his Banes on it, which means he can maybe take the rejoinder, take the fight a little bit more. Widow Mines get a lot of these Banes, but again, these ultras with chitinous plating with +2 do not die easily. But Maru is Maru, and he's already got Ghosts in the field. These ultras are going to get knocked down to the end of the days, and the Vikings are going to catch a lot of these Vipers. In fact, yeah, the Vipers are dead. So Serral knocks the planetary down, but he does take heavy losses for it, down honestly only about 3,000 right now, sure, but I think he was maybe even ahead pretty I don't know if he was ahead, but he was pretty close to even maybe through the first 10 minutes of this game. So the cost effectiveness has only just started to really start to put its way forward, put itself in Serral's favor, or in Maru's favor. So that's worth pointing out. As this game goes later, the Terran trades better and better, and then the Zerg trades worse and worse. But now +3 armor is just about done. +3 attacks on the way, adding in flyer attack as well. So Serral's going to have an answer to the Liberators before they're out in significant number. The first couple are only hitting the map right now, so these Corruptors are well timed by the Finnish Phenom. As again, he's just hoovering up the map. He's doing what he can to deny Maru from the 4th base, but realistically, modern TvZ is all about denying the 5th. The 4th base, great if you can do it, lovely. But it's all about denying the Terran 5th, about not letting them get that extra round of minerals and gas. That's a nice Widow Mine coming out of Maru. Again, Serral doesn't split quite as well as he should. And this pressure is not going to really show itself all that much. Everything's forced back. The missile turrets do a good job. There is a greater Spire done. The one thing we've seen is that Zerg players, unless it's a very specific timing, do not like to go for Broodlords. They're not very good right now. The Broodlings don't do any damage after the several consecutive nerfs. It slows your army down pretty significantly. And yeah, impact damage does something, but wait until +3 for that. So you're either looking to hit a timing to force the Terran to change their tech out significantly, to go get a bunch of Thors or Vikings or something, and then you transition your tech to go counter that, or you're doing it very late into the game when you think maybe the Terran doesn't have the money to properly counter what you're going to go for, and you need something that's just extremely cost effective. Everything else just makes it not all that great. So Serral's going to try to get aggressive once again, clears out the minefield, but the quick unburrow there from Maru, even still friendly fire on the tanks, means one of these Widow Mines goes down. The second one chokes a shot, and with the Observers or the Overseers in as well, a lot of these Widow Mines, well, they're just not going to go off on what they need to go off on. Banelings are still here. Not even a planetary. The orbital is going to get broken down once again. Bailing is on top of the Ghost, but it takes 6 mains to kill a Ghost, and they're cloaked up anyway, so it doesn't really matter. And now we're going to see the Lings are going to start to knock away, chew away at this Orbital. It starts to burn down, but the Ultra's dead. The Ghost Snipes are going to do enough to deal with that one. And the Shark Fester, the Bird Infester, not really able to do anything just yet. Now Serral, of course, rounding at that tech tree. +3 attack, just about done. +2 ranged attack, about halfway done. As Serral unlocks this opportunity to go Hydras later on, to go and get Lurkers or something. And again, Lurkers into late game Terran are not particularly good. They're not, there's nothing special about, I mean, there's special things about them, but they're just not very good. They die to Ghosts very easily. They die to Liberators very easily. And those are kind of the key units of the Terran late game. Now, Maru is distracted on the right side. He wants to go and deal with the Zerg base, but he's going to have to do it. If he wants to do it, great, fine. But he's going to do it at the cost of his own units. As now Infestors go down. Nice EMPs there. Snipes down for Maru. Means that there will be no fungal. That means that Serral, realistically, he might try to trade as well as he can. He cannot take the fight, but the Observer, or excuse me, the Orbital on the north side is going to get targeted down. The command center, it stays alive. But orbitals matter more. You have to buy them. They're expensive. Well, they're not expensive, but they are an investment. And there's energy as well. The mules, there are scans. Again, if you're Serral, kill the Orbital, let the command center drop down, turn into something, then go kill it again. That's your job. That's your goal if your name is Serral. And by the way, resources lost. Yeah, he's going to lose that base on the right side finally. But I don't think he was realistically expecting to keep that too much. And he's actually mined a significant amount out of the hybrid base, as well as now this command center. We talked about it earlier on. It stayed alive. It landed and never turned into anything. So it's going to go down too. But Maru should get the hybrid base. That's very important to point out. These bases, again, are very, very hard for the Zerg to take and even harder for the Zerg to hold on to. The problem is Maru's getting eaten out on by the inside out. He's got Lings in the natural. He's got Lings very quickly into the main base. He's lost his 4th base. So yeah, he just killed 2 hatcheries of Serral. Maru's mining very, very little, and the only reason he is because mules exist. He's on 27 SCVs. He's on, well, I was going to say, yeah, he's on 27 SCVs. His economy is absolutely shot. And yeah, he's going to go try to retake this base again, but it feels like there are too many things that he's got to do. He wants to go take down these bases, these hybrid bases of Serral. And by the way, Serral's taken both the hybrid bases. He's taken the 11 o'clock base. He's probably going to go retake the 4 o'clock base that Maru just took pretty quickly. Maru's effectively all in. Not effectively, he is all in. He's got to go and, first of all, reestablish that 4th base, but then also take a lot of Serral's economy down. And in fairness, Serral's bank is not 8K, it's not 10K, but he's just going to wander right on through everything. And because Maru is mostly on creep and there's nowhere good for him to run, Serral's going to annihilate Maru in this first game. Truly, truly devastating. Serral doesn't make it even look close. So now we move into game 2, and I have heard incredible things about this map. And by the way, when we talk out, like, we ask, why in the world would a Terran player be choosing to play on Radhuset in a best of 7? Well, the bans are different in a best of 7 in ESL events than a best of 5 or something, where the order goes pick, ban, then you pick the rest. And what that means is that Maru had no opportunity to ban out Radhuset. 0 chance. And again, while Terrans hate Radhuset and Equilibrium, in general, they hate Radhuset more. It's just such a big map. It is so hard to go put pressure on a Zerg player. Certainly a Zerg player like Serral, who looked untouchable. Granted, he got himself a nice lead in game 1, but he looked absolutely untouchable. So again, Maru doesn't have the opportunity to ban that. He picked Hecate, which, hey, surprisingly, actually, that Maru had top seed. I'm actually very surprised about that. But, you know, so it goes. Regardless, at the end of the day, point stands is that Maru is forced to play on this map. Serral has not given him a choice. But we have seen Maru and Serral play each other on not Hecate. We've seen them play on Hecate, but we've seen them play on Radhuset before. We saw it in the WTL, and for my money, that Radhuset game was one of the best games of this year already. Now, granted, I just got off of casting 3 days of IEM Katowice and watching another day and a half. Like, there have been a lot of really good games. In fact, the thing that's really odd to me is that TVT was actually consistently one of the best, if not the best matchup of IEM Katowice, because Well, you saw, or I'm assuming you saw, DreamHack Atlanta. A lot of people did. And it's like, wow, that was horrible. It was a bunch of cyclones and just cyclone wars and really boring games. And yeah, that's true, but somehow it got a lot better in this matchup. We saw the cyclones being used effectively, but not oppressively. We saw Marine tank mid games. We saw crazy late games. We saw Bunny almost beat Clem while forgetting combat shields. Just crazy games. So it is wild to me that TvT gave us some of the best games of Katowice. Again, considering how bad they all were, universally bad at Atlanta. I enjoyed some of it because we saw some meta developments. I enjoyed Cure trying some things out that wouldn't necessarily always work, but they were evolutions, right? And certainly some counter builds tomorrow was pretty cool. But talking about Radhuset, talking about how big this map is, it means you can get away with a couple things. Like, for example, Serral goes and he spends his first 100 gas in Overlord speed, and then he goes and gets speed and gets Ling speed, because again, it's so far away and you can kind of defend things really nicely. This means Ling speed is going to be done at like 430. This is a significant difference, but now, I mean, it's only 2 Lings in the map. Hellions are going to try to dive in. Serral pulls the drones on this, but he will lose a couple drones. The trick is, he's been so greedy that losing 2 drones is actually not the end of the world. You don't want it, absolutely not. But he's been able to get a grade with being very, very greedy in this game. And that means that, yeah, losing 3 drones, not great. If there ever was a setup that you would like to lose 3 drones on, it's probably this one. So Serral got himself supply block, but he knows exactly what Maru's doing. He saw the scout on pretty much everything. And if we look at what he's doing here, he sent a drone down this way. I thought he might be trying to take a quick 4th base, but no. In fact, the drone just went back, and I don't think it... Oh, yeah, okay, that's the trick. I forgot about that. So he sent a drone down, and he might eventually go and mine he's mining out these out as well. But the first thing you do is you mine out this first mineral patch right here. And the trick is, if you put a creep tumor right here, the creep spreads down here, and you're able to spread the creep below this massive field of debris pretty easily. So Serral does that. It's pretty cool. I think he's the only Zerg I see that consistently does that at the high level, but granted, he's the only Zerg I see consistently playing on Radhuset anyways. So, you know, whatever. It's hard to make any judgments off that. But Maru, he's got his 3rd base up very quickly, adding in 2 more barracks, going up to 5, 1-1 about halfway done, stim in a nice spot. There's the creep tumor spot that we were just talking about. So Serral's going to have some nice vision on the left-hand side, which is important because Terrans can go and establish pushing positions on your 4th base there, take the Zelnaga tower really easily, and it causes some problems on you. But anyway, Lings on the right side are going to try to knock these Cyclones down, but Cyclones are not nearly as bad against Lings as they used to be. Yeah, Serral gets the Cyclone, but he's going to lose a significant Lings, like 8 Lings or something. I guess that's not significant, but in the grand scheme of things, it's not nearly as cost effective as it would otherwise be. So the Cyclone is going to run away, and it's kind of marooned. But if it can lock itself into a position, oh, that's the good spot. That's the good stuff right there. Serral's going to have to run around and will eventually get this around, but, you know, it gets a couple more lanes. So that's where we're going. But of course, this game is, we can talk all we want about the early game and fancy creep spreading tricks, right? The creep tumor is eventually going to go down right there when Serral thinks about it. Well, you and I both know that this game is going to go very late. That this game is going to go 30, 40 minutes probably. Because again, it's really hard for the Terran to push. And therefore putting effective pressure on is pretty hard. Oh, look at this. Dropper Lords are on the way from Serral. Yeah, it's hard for the Terran to push, but Serral is very interested in making sure that the Terran, not only they cannot push, but also getting some damage done himself. So 1-1 is just about done. The Banelings have morphed in on the right side. Maru finally sallying forth on the map with 2 medevacs. It's 7 minutes in. We really have not seen all that much happening, but Maru's also aware of the realities of Radhuset, of the fact that mutas can come in. It's a very good muta map that drops can go in. So he's got missile turrets here, but I don't think there's quite the density needed to shoot an Overlord down quickly enough. Meanwhile, Maru on the other side goes to the drop. Most of his Marines are going to get unloaded before the Lings arrive, but not enough of them, and really not in a good enough spot. So that's not going to happen, as now the Dropper Lord looks for another angle, finds another missile turret. Serral's like, yeah, no, not really worth doing. I might be able to get my Banelings in once, but only once, and I'd like to use this multiple times. So surely there's an angle I can find, and Yeah, he's going to find that angle. The missile turret's not where it needs to be. So Baneling's onto the mineral line. They found a weird angle, and now they're going to show up. Maru is very quick on the pull here. He is very well aware what's happening. Now into the third base. Is Maru quick on the pull this time too? Yeah, he is. But there's nothing to kill it. There's nothing to kill these Banes. Now Baneling speed is done. Marines are going to try to rally down, targeting down these the Banelings as well as they can. But Maru's not mining out of his main or his natural or his third base for quite a while. SCVs are pulled off that. Maru eventually says, okay, you know what? You got me. I'm going to lose 6 SCVs. I'd rather not lose more. On the other side, Maru, he goes and he gets a base for himself. I don't think this base goes down. There are too many lings right here, and the response is going to be too quick. But Maru, of course, he's never in just one spot. He's got to drop into the natural as well. And workers, well, I guess Maru's workers are starting to fall. He hasn't really done a ton of damage to Serral's economy at this point. And the lings, they continue to filter in. There's so much space behind the mineral line in the natural on this map that it's hard to go for Marines to really find a spot that they would look for. And 5 drones die, sure. And more importantly, Maru's aware of the creep spreading tactics. Serral gets it briefly, but now, no, he's not going to get that anymore, which means it's going to be that much harder to get the gold base. You kind of have to mine the wall out and knock the rocks down to make it really attainable. So Maru's got double prong drops up. He's gotten 8 drones. But you really do need to find more than that if you're Maru. Again, it's so hard for the Terran to put consistent pressure on the map because this map is so long that any sort of rally is just not going to work out super well. That your multi-prong and harass does need to do significant damage to curtail the Zerg growth. I mean, Serral's on 87 drones. Now, granted, Maru's on 90, so you can't really get too mad about that one way or the other. But I love how consistent Serral's being with his own drop play. Maru's doing, you know, a decent job. But these drops are slowly running out of Marines. But Serral's doing such a nice job of sending drop lords in, of putting lings in them, of putting banelings in them, and just making life difficult for the Terran in a way that a Terran player is not really used to dealing with. They're the one that drops. So Wintermine drops. They're going to try to show up in the natural, but they don't get a ton. The banelings kill off the rest of it. Just immediate target fire that down. So that's going to be pretty nice. One more Wintermine, though, is maybe going to be an opportunity. Bottom right side, we're going to see some Marines, some Marauders go down. And a bit of a weird rally from Maru as well. He stimmed across the map to try to make this happen, but instead he just lost a lot. And in this game, I half expected to turn on resources lost and see that Maru had lost more, because it just doesn't feel like he's getting these effective trades. There's now Infestors on the map sharking around. Of course, to properly use them, you need an army behind. One Infestor does not kill a drop. That has been nerfed out. It takes 3 fungals now to kill Marines, not 2, but Serral is sharking around. He is paying attention. He's marking exactly where his opponent's army is, and now that means that because he knows what's happening, he feels very comfortable, very confident to move out on the map. Now the Ling run by, or excuse me, Ling drop doesn't get a ton done as Maru drops in 1, 2, 3 more command centers. It gets cloaking on the way. 3-3's just about done. Maru's on 99 SCVs. Lazy's Widow Mines. Shot's gonna go off. Ooh, very nice there. 4 drones, tons of lings. Maru's on 99 SCVs, which tells you that his army is never gonna win a straight up fight. As a Terran player, you want to be like in the 120, 130 army supply range, or more realistically, because while your army is really strong and has a ton of cost effectiveness, you want to make sure that you have enough, really, as that's going to be a very dead medevac goes down pretty quickly. But Serral's going to take the fight. Hold that thought for a second as the Nidus goes up in the main base, but the Marauders are going to hold the line, the beef line really well. Medevacs boost forward because, of course, Parasitic Bomb is a thing. It's going to knock them down, but Maru wins that fight really handily. But in the main base, though, the Nidus is going to pop right on up here. Lings are going to start spilling in. Yeah, there are a couple ghosts, and they have personal cloaking. Widowmines, though, looking for the friendly fire, does damage those ghosts. Again, big deal though. The ghosts, as long as they're here, as long as they cloak, they 2-shot Lings, so it's not that big of a deal. The 3 SCVs will fall down. There's actually a couple more Lings doing a really nice job. Serral does have Burrow, so I'm kind of surprised we didn't see him do that and just, again, try to tax the multitasking, tax the resources of Maru that much more. Now the Lurker Den's just about done. Greater Spire's on the way. Serral rounding out everything as he drops the scan on the map and catches himself a free Infestor. And you might say, well, is that worth a scan? No, it's absolutely worth a scan. Infestors are worth so much gas, but also they are what wins the Zerg the fights. A Zerg cannot win fights at the highest level without Infestors, without Fungals on top of things. It just becomes far too hard once 3-3 is done, once the Ghosts are out, and that Fungal's going to be really good, but EMP is on the rest of them, meaning that that's going to be the only Fungal. Even still, it wipes down 30 army supply out of Maru. And by the way, there was an EMP that went down on the army, and I assumed that was going to hit something, but no, this Infestor on the left side, it's taken some damage, but it has another Fungal. It has another 2 Fungals almost available to it. You got to be careful there, Serral. You got to play from a little bit further away. You know Maru's going to tap that down the moment you show. Fungal goes down on... Oh, that's a big clump there, and a third of the army goes down. Granted, it's a lot of Marines. It's Marauders. It's not Ghosts, which are, again, by far the most important unit. But Maru has taken so much damage there, he's going to be forced to cancel one of his command centers. And Serral, yeah, he's trading a little bit worse, but... I was going to say, look at the banks, but actually the banks of Serral, not that great either. He's going to have to redevelop it, but he's got so much money on the map. Fungals on this army once again. Yeah, the Infestor will die, but that's a lot of Medivacs that are taking damage, a lot of Ghosts that are going down. And Serral, again, is not trying to win with this. Again, I mean, I think I say this a lot, but if you want, it's great. But this is about keeping the Terran supply down. It's about keeping the Terran tech down. Those are by far the most important things. You want to make sure the ghost count stays below probably around 10. Anything more than that becomes scary at 8 to 10. But if Maru is allowed to go up to like 16 ghosts or something, it becomes very hard to win. And you just want to keep the supply down in general. So you want to keep the energy down on Medivacs by killing him off and forcing all this healing. All of that really does matter. But Maru, he's got himself some extra starports. Right now, he's just building Medivacs out of that. But eventually, he's going to have lib range. He's going to be able to move and actually go and start to build this late game Ghost Liberator, a little bit of Bios and Medivacs army that is so powerful in the late game that really we saw Clem starting to do a couple months ago. And I think most Terran players have realized that's the thing. Now, Fungal's going to go down on this army, but it's not really going to do all that much. That being said, Maru on the north side loses 17 SCVs and will not be allowed to keep that base up. So Serral's got every base. He's got the gold base. He's got... What is this? 5, 6. He's on 6 base mining, 7 base being taken. Maru's not quite there yet. He's going to drop a scan. He's aware of what's happening here. Widow mines are going to go off on like very few units. Now target fire. Okay, that's a lot of banelings going down. They committed on the Widow mine, but all of them did. And the ghosts are going to try to kite backwards here as well as they can. And they're going to do a really nice job of that. Overseer goes down as well, but the parasitic bombs do a really nice job. Medivacs continue to fall. And the more Medivacs that go down, it's a Fungal on top of these Ghosts as well. EMP's tag it, so it's only going to be the single Fungal. And now the Cloak goes down, and actually Maru is going to be able to punish this. Serral cannot knock those Ghosts down before the Fungal ends. As Medivacs continue to fall, that actively diminishes the Liberator count that Maru can make, because you do need some critical mass of Medivacs to keep your Ghosts alive, to heal them up, to save your Ghosts. Actually, once the Fungal ends, you can kind of get them out of business and just reposition things. You need that critical mass. And if Serral keeps killing them, it means that the Liberator idea, again, it's going to slow down a little bit. Now, I do wish Maru would go and get Caduceus Reactor as well. That upgrade, that late game upgrade that Terran got access to in the previous patch, because it doesn't mean that you heal faster. No. But it means the energy regens faster, which means that you can either have less Medivacs or you can keep your army healed more consistently. Because right now, Maru's on 2 Medivacs. His army is in the red deeply in some units. They cannot get healed up. There's just not enough energy for it. So again, that does get a little bit more difficult. As despite all the missile turrets here, there's an Overseer on the bottom right side. It's going to enable a Nidus down. And yeah, there's like 1 Ghost. 1 Ghost does not counter this. We talked about, okay, so 10 Ghosts. Yeah, that's much better. I think that's Lurkers in that move out as well. Yeah, there are Lurkers in, but no. Serral's just going to back out, realizes that with all the Ghosts that are there, it's not really worth doing. Now Serral's going to try to move in on this side. Liberators are going to look to siege up maybe. But that's big parasitic bombs, and that is going to force them to split up, run around, not get as much damage as they would like. And actually, some of them will fall. And again, Liberators, they're extremely powerful. It seems like the Liberator on the right side does go down. Liberators are extremely powerful, but they're not cheap. They are one of the reasons why Maru is just not able to build the bank that he would like to build. So 9 Corruptors on the way. We're adding in Ultras as well. Anabolic Synthesis just about done, so they're going to be able to move a little bit faster already. Chitinous Plating is done. These ultras are full spec. But it does get rough. Ultras, of course, were indirectly buffed pretty heavily. It now takes one extra snipe shot to knock ultras down, which in this late game TvZ meta is really important. The ghosts, between having a maximum leash range or a maximum snipe range that if you run away from it, it means the snipe doesn't happen anymore, and the fact that it takes one extra snipe, ultras are not good necessarily, but they're much more viable. And they've just unlocked another tool in the toolbox as lurkers on the north side are going to show up. There's a little bit of bio there, but not a ton. And the ghosts are not there. The liberators are not there. Which means that, well, this planetary is going to come under some pretty heavy duress. This last marine is actually doing a really good job because the lurkers aren't targeting it down until right now. They're targeting that planetary. And the planetary will fall. There's no... Liberator's going to seize this up, but again, the planetary's dead. Lurkers run away. No worries. Absolutely zero worries for Serral. He's very fine. Man, that is a juicy infestor spot as well, one's going to get found on the left side. And by the way, when we talk about these late games, one of the key things that I think is by far the most important for Terran in the late game, you want to build a bank, absolutely, but you want like oh jeez, how is that infestor not being found? Again, the Venn diagram. Now Maru does a great job of targeting it down, so it's only going to get one fungal. But that fungal does so very much here. It's damage on medevacs. It forces this army all the way back home. Liberators are uncontested. The Banelings are going to chase these ghosts down to the ends of the earth. Are they going to kill them? No. But they zone them out from the Corruptors. They zone them out from the Ultras. And that means now that this command center that Maru wanted for his gold base is probably going to die. Actually, maybe not. Maybe he's going to get out after all, as long as Maru has the repair. But we're rapidly getting into this situation, 20 minutes into this game, where Maru is gonna struggle to get more bases. That seems wild to say because of, well, how late game TvZ normally goes, and generally it's this game of Maru, you gotta repair this, man. You have SCVs nearby. Fungal on the, oh man, that's a beautiful fungal. Second one as well. These ghosts are dead. They are so very dead. Maru tries to boost forward and save them, but it's not going to happen. And there are too many Corruptors in the sky anyways. That is a massive trade coming out of Serral, which means that this command center is not going to get repaired. It will go down. Maru's back down below 170 odd supply. These fungals are getting wild coming out of Serral. That Widowmine's going to be pretty nice. And the missile turret in the middle of the map does a decent job of making things move forward. But look at this lurker split. Look at this out of Serral. A single scan doesn't catch all of these. But now he's going to just put the Venn diagram of justice on top of everything. And the lurkers will fall. They're getting some SCVs, but the lurkers do go down. And Serral says, that's fine. I know where your army is now. I can go and try to attack into this. But Maru's he's on top of things. He repositions the Liberators and re-sieges them. And now Maru needs to remax. We look at resources lost. Again, we are 20 minutes in to a late game TvZ. And Maru's down, only up about, he's less than 2,000 resources up. Serral is starting to build a massive bank here. Briefly, it was staying pretty low as Serral continued to trade, but now we're looking at 6K, 2K. And given the fact that Serral has one of Maru's bases, I fully expect this to grow. This is still a 75, 80, excuse me, an 86 drone Zerg. As the Widowmines are nice against these Corruptors, but they get the abducts that they want. They're able to go and get a little bit of detection, so the lurkers can clean up some of the mines. And then you run back as this Infestor should go down. There we go. Again, Infestors are, of course, armored units. They take bonus damage from Marauders, and it means if you can target them down, they're extremely squishy. I saw some people actually talking not about this this result in this game or this series in particular, but just about Serral's run, because really I guess it was about the Clem series, where they're saying, well, you know what, Infestors shouldn't be able to burrow. They're too fast. They're too visible on the map. But the problem is if Infestors couldn't burrow move, they would be just about useless. And they're already really hard to use. I mean, Serral's on top of it, but Serral is literally the best player in the world. They would be, if they were on the map, they're so squishy. They are so slow that they would be nigh unusable against the Terran, which again, you as a Zerg player, Serral's making this look really impressive, and it is extremely impressive, but you could not, I'm not going to say nigh impossible, because I'm sure if Serral plays Milky Cow or something, he's going to win. But if you don't have infestors in the late game, taking down this late game Terran army is just not, it's not a thing. You just don't have what you need. So the base on the north side goes down once again. Maru does a nice job denying the mining on the bottom side base, but Serral's mined significant value out of this. I mean, the cheaper or the less mineral, the lower mineral patches have been mined over 50%. It's like, what, 850 minerals or so, and they have 310 left. So they are significant. Serral has mined significant money. I have stolen significant money out of Maru. But Maru is starting to establish position on the map just a little bit more. He's starting to finally take that gold base, which you would like. The Widow minefields are, again, really solidly placed. And with these ghosts on the high ground, Maru's actually doing a really nice job of using the high ground and the low ground to set these fights up. But for now, he's just going to lose a bunch more SCVs. He goes down below 60 for the first time in quite a while. The orbital, well, there's nothing that shoots up really on the north side, so it's not gonna go down. But Maru loses more mining, and the trick is really, as we talk about how a late game Terran works. And by the way, Maru has sucked a lot of money off that base. When we talk about late game Terran, what we have to talk about is that eventually the Terran's going to take every base on the map. That's if the Terran brings their entire 200 supply into a very small area, it is very hard for the Zerg to contest. The trick is Radhu's set is so spread out, and it's so not just spread out, but it's so long in rush distance. The Banelings are going to get another base here. Serral, at the very least, Maru will snipe down the ultras, but he's going to have to split these ghosts away. So I mean, he's going to lose a ghost, absolutely, but he's not going to lose a second. And there's an orbital right there. But again, the big deal here is Serral was able to take those Maru bases early enough that even if Maru takes them eventually, a lot of money's gone down. As Maru, he's going to be able to cut away from this. The ghost, oh, this is beautiful fighting out of Maru. None of the ghosts go down. The Marauders are still there. The Sim City, the missile turrets, everything else. It's a beautiful fight. Now, unfortunately, because this is a replay, we don't have battle report, but you look at the resources lost, all of a sudden, it's getting much bigger. It was 2,000 a second ago. Now it's 5. And it's just going to get a little bit more than that. Now, I love what Serral does with these Nidus plays to try to keep his drones alive, but he's not going to be able to do it this time. Those drones aren't dead, though. Maru doesn't commit into it. He's afraid of the counterattack from Serral. He's afraid of the surround for Serral. So for now, he's going to deny mining from the Zerg on the bottom, or on the 6 o'clock base. He's going to deny some of the creep. He's actually going to get this base again. This time it's a kill. But he's not going to go much further than that. He wants to make sure that he at least gets some money out of this base. But he doesn't want to move on creep. That is far, far too scary. So Serral has built a massive bank. 10,000 minerals, 2,000 gas, and he's not mining a ton of gas, right? 600 gas a minute, but Maru is actually mining 0 gas. His main base is mined out. His natural is also mined out. His third base is, you guessed it, it's mined out. His fourth base is mined out. He hasn't taken the gases on this base. He hasn't taken the gases on his outlying bases. And he's gotten some money, right? He's got 1,000 gas in the bank, but this late game Terran army you're building is pretty expensive in the gas count. You need gas for ghosts and liberators, and he forgot high-sec auto tracking. He got building armor, but his missile turrets don't have that enhanced range. His bunkers, well, his bunkers don't have that enhanced capacity. His planetaries don't have that enhanced range. So that's actually a pretty big deal. As the Terran players, you're looking to play defensively. High-sec auto tracking does matter quite a bit. So he's gonna eventually get it, but again, it is just a tiny bit late. Although actually, I guess it's building armor that gives you the bunker capacity. There we go, Maru finally rounding at the last of his tech. He's getting Caduceus reactor, adding in again high-sec auto tracking, +2 air attack. But the problem is he's kind of broke. He does have the gold base, absolutely, but he doesn't really have the left side base easily, doesn't have the north side base. And again, he's not mining any gas. 302 gas is the last he's going to have for a time. Serral has done a great job of just trading him out and just playing this war of attrition. Those Widow mines, though, are really solid. They don't kill much. They just damage them. And again, you can run back and Zerg units regen decently quickly. You can just wait for them to go and be okay, and then go again. Serral's doing such a good job of just closing this map out time after time. Snipes go down on the ultras, but oh, that's a beautiful fungal. It's gonna get a lot of these ghosts, but again, kiting backwards further and further forward. The banelings, a lot of them will fall and this planetary dies before it could even be born. And yeah, Maru, he wants to take this base, but there are only 3 mineral patches left. There's not a lot of money remaining into it anyways. The value is in the gas, and again, Maru's only just now starting to mine gas, and it's 1 out of 3. He hasn't taken these refineries, and 18 SCVs went down somewhere else. I assume it was on the north side. Now Serral tries to go in once again. Maru's going to have to take really cost-effective trades to make this happen. All the missile turrets are going to go down, which means nothing really defends against these corruptors. And this planetary, Maru cannot afford to lose this planetary, but I think it's just going to go down regardless of whether Maru can afford it or not. He has no mining. He's trying to take the base on the right side, and luckily there's a command center right there. But for the briefest instant in time, Maru has literally no income. 100 minerals a minute, 0 gas a minute, 22 gas a minute off the long distance mining. Maru has so little money in this game. Now that even as Serral has gone and at this point traded 10,000 resources worse, the amount of money that Serral has extracted from this map means that it truly does not matter. And we have to take a moment to point out, by the way, as impressive as all of this is, the fact that Maru has been just withstanding this wave after wave of a Serral who is probably the better player, like a better version of Serral than we've ever seen, is insanely impressive on both sides. This is such a high skill game as the Banelings are going to get some of this bio, but the orbital is going to go up in time. And actually, I really like what Maru is doing here with getting the orbital like this. It's going to be his 9th orbital, and I think in the Terran late game, you just want as many orbitals as possible. But on top of that, as the Terran player, you're almost at this point, as you have this many orbitals, you don't really care about the SCVs going down outside of gas mining and the ability to build stuff. You care much more about the ability to keep your bases alive so you can mine out of those locations. So losing a couple Banes to a couple SCVs to a Ling Bane run by, it's fine. You have a mule camera. You got 10 orbitals. Losing the orbital is the bigger problem. So you build something that can lift, that is less vulnerable. And by the way, Maru has pretty much mined out the left-hand side, so he's okay to just float that orbital back and go elsewhere. But again, Serral's mining out of Maru's base. Maru got a lot out of it, but Serral has gotten more out of this base than Maru has gotten out of... Well, actually, Maru's gotten a decent amount out of this, but Serral's mined more than half of this base. So even as Maru takes it, if we look at the balance of things, this game's going to go even later. Again, I don't necessarily see anyone winning this game anytime soon. Although again, Maru's supply is not in the best spot. He's only got 35 workers. But again, there's the Nidus as well coming out of Serral to make sure these drones can get out on the north side, even as he just got a tiny bit out of that base. Realistically, it's more important for Serral to go and steal money from Maru. More, not even so he can have it, but so Maru cannot have it. Because again, Maru is very, very broke. He's got 400 minerals, 50 gas in the bank, and is not mining a ton. There's a couple more drones are going to go down. Serral is actually doing something very cute where he's putting the drones in, mining them, trying to put them back through the Nidus just to get that little bit of extra money. But now Maru's going to go down, or Maru's going to retreat back at the ramp. Serral goes down the ramp here. The Banelings are going to get some really nice connections on all of the Marines, but snipes on the rejoinder do mean that these ultras fall down, and that gas or that mineral bank out of Serral is not as big as it once was. It was 10k. Now it's only 6, and Serral's not as wealthy as he used to be. He's not mining as much as he used to be. He's only mining 1,200 minerals a minute. He's got 57 workers, sure, but look at his bases. 2 mineral patches. 3, or I guess 4 mineral patches, but not a lot remaining on these. Not a ton of mineral patches on this one either. This map is rapidly mining out in a way that feels weird, because you would expect Radhuset to mine out, I don't know, 5 minutes later. Radhuset is a big map, but it's not a map that has an insane amount of bases. 8 bases per is a lot. But remember, 1 of those or 2 of those bases are golds, which means they have less money in them than a regular blue base does. And this is not like Ice and Chrome. I think Ice and Chrome had 9 bases aside. So, well, it is a big map and it has a lot of bases. To me, it doesn't quite have as many bases as you would expect, but that's a nice snipe there down on the Infestor before the Fungal can go down. Snipes go down on the Ultras as well. The Banes just do not get the connections they need on the left side. Yeah, the Bio dies, but the Ghosts are still there, and Maru is trading so insanely cost effectively at this point. Now he's up 16,000 resources. Maybe actually closer to 17. He's up significantly in resources lost. But again, the problem is he doesn't have as much money available to him on the map. Serral has done such a good job of stealing money from the map, of hoovering up these bases that are eventually going to be Maru's, sure. but they're not Maru's right now. As even long distance mining again, it's not even about mining it. I mean, it kind of is. Serral needs that money. His bank is down to a third of what it once was. But again, it's stealing money from Maru is the big deal. So Maru finally is going to get on top of bases for the first time in what it feels like forever. And this hatchery will fall, but the drones don't go down. And again, that's important because Serral, at this point, he's not mining a ton. He wants to make sure he doesn't lose those as the queens, they're going to get sniped down a little bit. Widow mines are going to get some pretty solid shots. But it's not, I don't know that it's necessarily going to be a it's absolutely going to be as Maru, the rest of his army arrives. Maru's going to be able to hold on to this north side base. And I think there are a lot of drones here. Yeah, this is free. Maru's going to get himself a couple more drones, which is pretty solid as he finally takes the north side base once again. By the way, bottom side, 400, 500, 700-ish. Call it 1,000 minerals, 1,200 minerals on that bottom side base. That's not a lot. That's a minute's worth of mine. It's 2 minutes worth of mining, maybe. Less if there are mules. But now Serral, he's doing the big thing. Maru is broke. Again, we talked about how broodlords are not very good. But in this game state where Maru cannot afford the Thor switch, cannot afford the Viking switch, going on up, spending this entire bank on, well, how many broodlords is this? 11 broodlords or so, 15 broodlords is a big swing. It's a massive decision here coming out of Serral because he's not going to be able to afford anymore. This is his last army, and the fungals are going to start to blanket everything. EMPs are not able to reach because, again, the infestors are there. And these broodlords, while they're not very good, not as good as they once were, not as good as they've been at any point in StarCraft 2 history, they can at least chase. They're much faster than they once were. And that means that Maru is on a bit of a rough position right now. Snipes go down on some of the ultras, but they're not going to kill anything. Infestor will fall. And Maru almost has to play the kite and run game. He's on stim and run. He's got to go and find this opportunity as a ghost is going to get sniped down. We're going to see some of these queens fall, but again, the fungals here are making this so very hard. A couple Vikings have been made, but it's just not enough to contest this air army. Maru has to kite away once again as the broodlings continue to force him back, which means effectively that he's going to get forced back up this north side base, the last mining base that he realistically has. He's got to find an angle. He's got to find a flank. And those things are very hard to do when there are still, what is this, 7 infestors, 4 ultras on the map. Widow mines are going to go down really nicely on those corruptors. That's pretty solid. This base is not going to, it's not even is not going to be able to mine anymore. This orbital, I think, is just going to fall down with how many corruptors there are. And there are so many broodlords on the map that the broodling count is really hard to fight through even still. So we're going to see fungals go down and everything. Maru's actually got a really nice concave. Some snipes go down on the broodlords. There's no creep, remember, so no queens to transfuse. The fungals continue to find value. Banelings running on forward. The ghosts have to run away, and they do so, but the banelings still catch them down. And Maru's army gets knocked to smithereens. He's still got a couple ghosts, but it's 39 army supply, and 10 of that's in the air. There's not a lot here. 5 medevacs, 7 ghosts, 1 liberator. Literally all that remains. And Maru, he's going to have to give this position up. He's going to have to give that orbital up, which means he's down to 8 orbitals now, which is a problem. Again, you're running out of mules. You don't have as many, not running out. You don't have as many mules. You don't have as many scans. This is, there are 2 spots, there are 2 bases that have minerals left on the map at this point. I mean, I guess technically this bottom side is like 75 minerals. That doesn't count. And actually the rest of the minerals here are mined out as well. So it's all about this north side base. Maru's dropping mules to long distance mine as he tries to hold this position, tries to build more Vikings, build more ghosts. He actually can't do either of that because he doesn't have a lot of gas. Serral doesn't have a lot of minerals either, but he does have a gas count. Let's see where we go from here. Serral, he's spending the last of his money on more broodlords, more infestors, because, well, broodlords or infestors are very cheap in minerals. They are very expensive in the gas. So you got like no minerals and you got a ton of gas, you build infestors. It's extremely cost effective. So Serral needs to hit 1 fungal to end this game. Maru needs to hit some incredible snipes, some good flanks. This is still winnable for Maru, down about 30 army supply, but it has to be an insane fight. So we're just gonna have to see if Maru's gonna be able to find that. Now, fungal hits a couple ghosts, but it's gonna be fine. They're out of range. They're okay. And at this point, we're gonna see again mules get dropped. The broodlords are gonna siege away at things. if you're Maru, you're kind of okay with the mules only getting one trip. Now, worst case scenario is the mules getting minerals and then dying, as that's going to happen right there, because that's money that has been erased from the map in this situation where no one has any money anymore as Maru runs forward, gets a snipe down, dodges the fungal. This is an insanely technical battle of micro as the game goes even later. Okay, Viking. That's a significant Viking count all of a sudden. I can't believe Maru had the money for this. This is 8 Vikings with 3-2. Serral's got 3-3 for his error, but there are more Vikings than there are Corruptors. And with snipes in well positioned, with the Liberator here to maybe zone out the Infestors, this is looking pretty doable for Maru, which is insane considering how this game has gone. And again, reminder, Serral's down literally 18,000 resources. I think it was worse at one point, but anyway, that's a lot. Maru has to play this kite and run game. There's not a lot of money anymore. Serral's going to move forward. Ideally, I think he's going to find a position for the Vikings over dead airspace. EMP's hit a lot of those infestors, but fungals are going to go down on all the medevacs. And you need to be able to heal these units up. So those fungals, they're expensive. Maru cannot afford to heal them. He cannot afford to repair. And the fact that there's a spore that's able to run forward is in and of itself incredibly important. So Maru's just mining a little bit more gas. He's got 40. Actually, I think the thing to do is just go repair everything, because 48 minerals don't get you anything. The mules here, they are important because what they mean is Serral doesn't get any mineral. It gets less minerals as well. But he's got a little bit more. He's got this one mineral patch on the right side. 300 minerals left in that one. But again, even if Maru loses the workers on these mineral patches, you just removing minerals from the map is not as good as having them for yourself, but it is far better than giving Serral the money. So now the Lings, they're going to find this counterattack, and this takes position away, this takes space away from Maru, but quite realistically, who cares? Maru doesn't have any money. Like, that orbital is totally doesn't matter in terms of anything, really. So fungals are going to go down. Mules are going to take money out of this mineral patch, though. And Maru can do this for forever. He's got, what is this? He's got 8 orbitals. You can just drop a scan and drop mules and remove money from the map. But Serral is getting more. He's mining 7. It's crazy that long distance mining is giving 700 minerals a minute. That doesn't seem right, but anyway, so it goes. Serral's been able to slowly build an army. Once it was a 30 army supply lead, now it's a 70 army supply lead. Now, Maru needs to do something. I think the longer this goes, the worse it is for him. I understand the idea of, oh, look, I'm going to mule it out. It's going to be fine. He's not getting enough value from that. So he needs to go find these other mineral patches. Like, Serral's got 2 mineral patches in the natural that are about to mine out, but that's another 150 minerals right there. He's got this mineral patch on the right side. That's another 135. And in this late game, that really is what matters. So also, it's really hard. Maru has to find some way to break Serral apart, because that army as it stands, 11 broods, 8 corruptors, 14 infestors, 3 vipers. Maru does not have the army that can fight this. So he's got to find some way to go and force Serral's army out of position a little bit. Well, actually, he's just going to tap out. Okay, Maru understands that he couldn't win anymore, and that means that Serral goes up 2-0. Now we move into game 3, and this is a game where, well, Serral's up 2-0. It's very, very scary. And now we move into game 3. Serral's up 2-0 off of a marathon. Game 2 on Radhuset, which is, again, just kind of insane. The fact that Maru brought that game back after how much of the map Serral had and how against the back foot Maru was, is just, it's insanely impressive. And Maru, there's a reason that Maru is in the Grand Finals, even as he sits down 2-0. He dominated his run. He topped the group of death. You know, he did very, very well in the playoffs. He wasn't quite as untouched as Serral was again. I mean, he went to game 5 against Beyond, but he was in control against Kira. Like, he is one of the top 2 players of this tournament. That is 100% true. But at that point, after you lose a game like that, I mean, it's going to be, I don't know if the players took a break after that game too. Of course, you do have the right to request breaks. I think it's like 1 break in a best of 7. I'm not totally sure on the rule set on that one, but you have the right to request it. And if I'm Maru, I think I'm asking for a break after that game number 2, but also, you know, this is technically a best of 7. You don't want to spend a break in game 2 and then play a couple more long games and then really need it. Although generally, ESL has an ad break as well, so you can take advantage of that one just a little bit. Anyways, what are we going to see here in this game number 3? And again, this is a setup where Serral's up 2-0. This is certainly the time, if there ever was a time, for Serral to go and actually take some damage and do something a little bit more interesting. Go, although as I say that, he did the Roach Queen drop or Roach Queen pressure on Hecate. But again, if there ever was a time for Serral to do something really oddball, it's right now. It's map 2. You're up 2 games to 0. Game 3, it's expected probably if there ever was a time. So you do when you have a bunch of maps to give. You do it when you have a time to really set Maru reeling after you've won a pretty interesting late game that you set the tempo for early, and a full late game that went 40 odd minutes that Maru tapped out from without even really taking the final fight. This is also a Serral. I mean, I think at this point, a Serral as well, you are incredibly comfortable in any stage of the game. You played an aggressive game and it worked out really nicely. It took a while to kill Maru, but it worked out really nicely. You played a late game that went very late and is probably the single longest individual map of the entire tournament. I think some of those Showtime PvZs were maybe close, but none were 40 minutes long. And yeah, Serral's going to drop a Roach Warren. Now, granted, this is not necessarily an aggressive Roach Warren. It is pretty common for Zergs in this day and age to go. And Serral's going to, by the way, get a full scout of the main base, sees that there's a third base done, or a third command center done from Maru, sees the timing of the orbital on that as well, which is fantastic for Serral. But again, it's not uncommon for Zerg players in this day and age to go for a safety Roach Warren, to play into that just because, hey, it keeps you safe against Cyclones, and that's the big thing. It keeps you safe against Cyclones in a way that Ling Bane Queen really doesn't. That's a buffer for the Queens. We saw what Clem did to... Was it to Solar? I think it was Solar. No, it was Maru to Dark. We saw what Maru did to Dark with his mass Cyclones in the group stage, where he killed every single queen. And it's like, yeah, that's what Cyclones do. They're very, very good. So getting a couple Roaches out in front means that that's not really possible. But even as I say that, Serral, he's got Roaches running across the map. He's building more and more Lings. This is aggressive. This is aggression out of our Finnish Zerg player. He does intend to do more than just stay safe and defend, but the Hellions and the Reaper, they're on the other side of the map. They're going to see that one Roach running across, and that's going to be panic mode for Maru right now. He knows that something's wrong. He's going to see the Roaches right now. Bunkers are going to go down, but the question really is whether Maru picked this up quickly enough. More Overlords on the way, 3 of them at a time. Ravagers are going to get morphed in, and of course, if Serral gets up to 7, if he gets his gas count up to that, 7 Ravagers, 1 shot a bunker. That's kind of the magic number right there. You can do away with like 5 if the bios land and the shots hit at the same time. Maru is well defended. He's got 2 bunkers just about done. 3rd one on the way. SCVs pulled preemptively, and that's important, right? Maru needs to make sure he doesn't die here. If he survives, he's fine. He's got a 3rd command center done. But that is easier said than done, as Biles now on the bunker, and Maru is heavily supply blocked, losing those 2 supply depots. Serral would love to go and get on top of the Liberator, but he can't quite. The bunkers are there. They're zoning things out. So Serral, he needs this extra Ravager. Dives in, loses 1 Ravager to it. Now, this is Serral's break. He's going to try to get on top of all 3 bunkers at the same time. Means the repairs are not going to be good enough. 1 bunker's dead. 2nd one falls down. Lings are taking heavily splash damage here, and the Ravagers are starting to fall, but now the bunker's going to fall down here as well, and this is what Serral desperately wanted, to knock all the bunkers down, to get on top of all of these SCVs, and the reinforcements are going to be the trick. More Lings are on the way. More Lings continue to flood through, and while there's a tank on the high ground, and there are Hellions right here, the Liberator's dead. The Hellions are pretty low. Maru has not repaired them. 1-1 is going to get canceled at the very least. Tank goes down on the low ground, but this is a pretty scary, because now the Lings are going to try to get on top of this tank. The Ravagers are going to maybe try to bile it down, but instead they kill everything on the ground. Marines have stim, sure, but there's nowhere to run. I guess there is, but not really, because you cannot let this Zerg into the main base, and if you raise the depots, the Marines are dead. In fact, Maru is dead, and Serral's up 3 games. Get game 4, and it is on perhaps the best single map that we have had in this current map pool, and I might be controversial, I don't know. It has given us some of the best singular TvZs that we have seen, that we've been privileged to see in this matchup. As Maru, of course, he's got a proxy on the way right outside the gold base there, looking for kind of a home and away proxy Reaper setup where even if Serral scouts the natural and says, oh, you got a barracks, that's great for you, okay, it's going to be a single one, and that means that Serral's going to read this as something different than it is. So it's the Omega mind game coming out of Maru in this game number 3. Again, with his tournament life on the line, he loses here. He is not the champion. He does not win IEM Katowice. So that title goes to Serral for the second time. And granted, it's not a world championship for the second time. Or I guess Serral has two. It wouldn't be a third world championship. This is just, quote unquote, just $150,000 first place prize. Just a ton of EPT points. Just, you know, just a $500,000 tournament. Not the world championship. That comes later at Riyadh at the Esports World Championship. But for now, Maru's got 2 Reapers into the main base, and Serral has absolutely no defense. He's going to have a nice Spore Cancel on one as Maru dives through. Second drone. No, it's not going to go down here. Not quite. Maru's going to look for a little bit more. Gets the second drone. Serral was caught woefully out of position by this. Now he's going to look for an angle into the natural, where Queen's going to try to target down and will be successful in targeting down at least one of the Reapers, which slows down Maru pretty significantly. He wanted 3. 3 is kind of that magic number, and maybe he even goes more than that. No, he's not. So he's going to go back up to 3, which 2 shots slings, 2 shots drones, and like 5 shots queens, I think is the number, something like that. But again, the big value is you 2-shot lings and you 2-shot drones. So it gives you this opportunity to dive into the main base and get something done. It denies the Zerg's third for a while just by existing, but Maru loses another Reaper. And by losing that Reaper, he doesn't have nearly as much impact anymore. These Reapers, they've gotten a couple drones. Yes, they've gotten a couple lings. Absolutely. But they have not gotten the value that they are looking for. Not at all. Not nearly enough. Because Maru has to run home now. Speed's done, sure. But this means that Serral can go and take his third base. It's slow. It's 45 odds supply when he takes it. But I'm not sure that's not necessarily the end of the world, because Maru delays his natural quite significantly to make this happen. And by the way, Maru's going mech in this game number 4. This is the build that I have not seen a single Zerg beat in the entirety of IEM Katowice. So this mass cyclone, we can technically call it battle mech, but it's just mech at this point. The traditional mech where you just open mass tank, do whatever, that is dead. That's in the ground. That's just not good. This is mech. This is mech that Maru is going for right now, and it beat I've seen it beat Dark. I've seen it beat Rainer. I've seen it beat Solar. I've seen it beat, yeah, I've seen it beat pretty much every Zerg that exists that exists in this group. Now, no one has tried it against Serral yet, but it's beaten everyone else, and it seems mighty strong at the moment. So Maru backs against the wall, playing the build that he used to kill Rainer in a pretty cool series on this map. And of course, when we talk about Serral, we talk about his scouting all the time. We talk about his precision all the time. We talk about his macro and his micro and his decision making and everything else. The thing we don't talk about enough is how good Serral's series prep is, how good his player prep is. Because Serral, and he's one of the few players that will do this, will study everyone. Doesn't matter if he's playing Milky Cow in the round of 36. I feel bad for Milky Cow because I'm kind of punching down on him twice now in this cast. But he'll go and he'll play, I don't know, Night Phoenix really early on. And he's going to take the time to go and study his opponent's replays and see what he needs to know and learn what he needs to know about that, which is not something every player does. Not really. Especially when there's a skill imbalance. Serral is very, very good at not only in scouting, but giving himself the context that he needs to understand the scouting. So I don't think that even if he hasn't properly seen into the main base just yet, he does see the gas on the natural. But actually, no, he doesn't see the gas on the natural. Never mind. And remember, double gas before 430 on the natural is kind of that mech tell. So he doesn't see that. He actually has not seen pretty much of anything. But I don't think he's going to be too surprised about what's happening. Now, he is building up as if this is Bio. So double Evo, Baneling Nest is done. Banelings are being morphed just to be extra safe. And he doesn't have roaches. So this first hit coming out of Maru is where things get really scary. The queen count is high. There are, what are we even looking at? How many queens are there? There are 10 queens on the map. That's a significant number, but they can get worried down. They can get picked down on. They can get just shaved down. Their energy can get shaved down very quickly by these Cyclones, especially as Maru rallies in 4 or 5 at a time. So Maru's going to try to dive on top of the queens right now. Some are already starting to fall, and the Lings are not here. The Banelings are not in position. Queens die very quickly. There, of course, the Banelings flanking around. Maru has to be careful of that. Lings on the run by. Lings looking to shut down some reinforcements. You have to be very careful about that one. And it's actually not Lings looking for the shutdown. It's Lings on the run by. And with, well, the Cyclones being made, they kill Lings, sure, but you still have to be pretty careful. Meanwhile, on the other side, Maru's going to have to kite away here. Does not want to get surrounded. The moment he gets surrounded, the Banelings make contact, and he is dead. These Cyclones are not... I mean, they're made out of paper, well and truly, and a lot of Cyclones go down very quickly. Maru... The Cyclones are not as expensive as they once were. They used to be as much as a tank, and just knocking that count down would be a significant problem. It's not as bad anymore. They are much cheaper, but you still want to get this ball rolling as Maru. You want to make sure that you are trading well, you're trading efficiently. And this stage of the battle mech, this stage of the mech play can be considered almost like a 2-on-1 type of idea. If we're comparing this to Bio, maybe not. Like the 5 racks marine setup, where you're trying to just consistently put pressure on the map. You're trying to trade out as well as possible. If you get contact with Banelings, it's not that great, but again, you're just trying to kite around and be as maneuverable as possible. This is another great surround coming out of Serral. A lot of the Cyclones actually get out, but the Banelings make solid connection to the Blue Flame Hellions, and that's going to take a decent amount of this anti-Ling power off the map. So that's good news. If you're Maru, you've taken another really solid trade, but you do need to progress. Eventually, this Cyclone power build does run out of speed just a little bit, so Maru's dropping double armory and upgrades. Unlike previous versions of the Cyclone, they actually matter quite a bit, because now the Cyclone lock-on, it's impacted by upgrades. So, which seems crazy. It used to be a spell, and now it's not. But anyway, the Cyclones are going to run forward. Carapace is done in 5 seconds or so, and didn't time that out right, but done just about right now. And that means these Cyclones are going to do significantly less damage. But Maru, he's aware of the base on the right side. He's going to knock the rocks down, cancels that base out of Serral. And Serral has not been able to develop the economy that he would like to have developed. Ooh, Maru's going to find the Roach Warren here. I don't know if it's enough to knock it down. Do we have transfuses from the Queens? We don't. So, Roach Speed, Glial Rate Reconstitution is going to get knocked down. Maru, of course, off creep now, can kite away. It's totally fine. But he delays the gold base once again. This is going to get delayed again. There we go. He goes and he's Maru on top of things. The Banelings are going to get found out. That's not a run by that's ever gonna. Oh, he plays with the line of sight blocker. Love that. Nice job there. The Banelings were dead, so at least you get some value out of them. Very well done there. Very well done there, Serral. But now the Roach Warren's going to get remade once again, because you do want Roach Ravager, Ling Bane probably against this composition, at least for the time being, until the tank count gets too high. And well, you need Roach Speed for that. You need a Roach Warren for that. So Serral gets that done. He's got his 5th base on the way, just a little bit further afield. Maybe something that Maru's not going to find as much. Maru's rolling in this game. He is in a fantastic spot in this game. He's killed 7 queens. Truly Henry VIII in this game, because again, actually, he's not even Henry VIII. Henry VIII killed 6 queens. Maru's gotten 7, so it's not even that. Lings on the right side are going to shut down a lot of this task force that Maru's been finding so much value on. A nice round there from Serral at the end. He's able to get on top of the rest of these Cyclones, and Banelings into the 3rd base as well. Heavy economic damage. 16 dead SCVs. We talked about the damage that Maru's been able to find, the pressure that Maru's had on the map. All of a sudden, it evaporates all at once. It's just all gone down. Maru's got his fourth base up. Sure, it's very nice of him. It's good for him. But losing 16 SCVs pokes his economy down pretty significantly. Losing that army on the right side slows him down. He's going to have to fight from one angle now until he can set the multi-prong up once again. And we're also starting to hit the point where these small task forces of Cyclones are not nearly as good. Because A, Zerg upgrades. B, Zerg supply means that you can just have a little bit more to defend it. It's not nearly as good. But the Hellions are going to find a couple drones. Very nice. Blue Flame Hellions, shred drones. So that 6 workers are going to go down. Serral's going to have to pull away a little bit more, and he's going to get 7 probably, maybe an 8th. I don't think, yeah, not a 9th. So economic damage from Maru, absolutely, but not necessarily the end of the world. But now Maru, he's just about maxed out. He's got his 1-1 timing. He's got a ton of tanks. And Serral's tech is not properly set up to defend against it yet. Hive's not done. We don't have Vipers. We don't have... there's a Spire on the way. It's not done yet. Nothing really handles these tanks in a pitched battle. So Serral, he's going to be looking for surrounds. He's going to be looking for counterattacks. He's going to be looking for biles. He's going to be looking to take multiple fights. But quite frankly, the army that he or the bank that he has doesn't really support those multiple fights. So this run by is by far the most important thing that Serral's going to do. He's going to distract Maru. He's going to slow him down. He's going to buy time for the Hive to complete. And once the Hive's complete, he's going to buy time for Vipers to show up. Yes, this base, it's actually not even a base. It was never made. But the gold base is not going to be a thing for a while. But Maru, his tanks are pretty far behind this army. It's not a really good setup. It's only portions of this army right now. So Serral moves on to the front of this. He's going to get on top of these Cyclones on the right side and knocks them down. And now, without the Cyclones and the Hellions buffering, Biles can knock these tanks down ever so slowly. They can do what they want. And by the way, 18 SCVs have fallen. Serral's done an excellent job of crisis management right now. This timing that Maru's been looking for was solid, sure, but it was not allowed to do what it wants to do. And now, do we have Vipers? No, the Hive is done. No Vipers. They're getting started right now. But at least +2 melee is done. Serral's got a little bit more greater Spires on the way. But it does get even scarier because this position that Maru has, there's no good flank angle. Not really. So again, Serral's going to have to run by on the counterattack. He's going to find his way into the 4th base of Maru once again. And 9 more SCVs fall down. Lings come flooding down the front. It's another dead tank. And the fact that Maru has been this greedy, he's on 4 orbitals. There's no planetary. Maru would not be having these problems. He would not be having these problems if he built a planetary at the 4th. And this is one of the few times when I'm actually saying, yeah, I wish the Terran built a planetary. Generally, I'm talking about how, well, you know, actually, planetaries aren't great. The banelings shred them. It's whatever. And Byun is one of these players that really loves getting the 4th orbital instead of the planetary. But in this game, with how immobile the army of Maru is, with how committed he is to what is now this 2-2 timing, you really want to make sure that you're not worried about the counterattacks. It's now blinding clouds on so many of these frontline tanks. And again, Maru's tank line, it goes back for miles, but the front line means it's a little bit less powerful. Banelings get a lot of the tanks. Yeah, that's a problem. But look at Maru's supply right now. It's fallen down in the gutter. The Queens will fall. They're not on creep to transfuse, and damage is being done to Serral's left side base. But Maru is still going to get beaten back here. That's the big deal. Lings on the other side getting even more damage done. And Maru cannot keep his economy alive. Yeah, he's got 72 SCVs, but you look at this game, it's 58 dead SCVs. And Lings come flooding down the ramp as well. These Cyclones will fall. So Serral, he's broken the position. He's broken this push out of Maru. He's only on 116 supply right now. And remember, if there ever was a game that Maru was going to win, and I'm not saying he's out of this game just yet, but based on how the first 10 minutes of this game has gone, Maru was in a commanding position. He was looking so good. And Serral just made that look easy. He's like, that's fine. I'm going to counterattack you, and I'm going to split your army up, and I'm going to punish your tank lines going back from here to infinity, really. And in the meantime, I'm going to buy time. My Vipers are going to be out, so I can take fights a little bit better eventually. I'm going to get in Hive, Adrenal, +3, 2/2/2 on everything. I'm going to build this army that I need to build, and now his economy is set up well enough, his army is set up well enough that he can afford to send a bunch of Banelings and Lings into this planetary, into these SCVs. He's going to knock both of them down. So 14 dead SCVs, it's a dead base. Maru's economy not quite in tatters just yet, but he's still only on 62 SCVs, still only on 4 bases, and he's going to have to try to find something on the rejoinder, and there's no defense at the 3rd base. Again, Serral finds the weak point of Maru's setup, and he actually burrows a couple Lings, so he gets 21 SCVs off of everything that's happened. And Maru responds, but there are already Lings ready for the next attack. There are already units ready when Maru pulls everything forward, pulls the defense forward, and now there's an Infestor here just getting ready to be the shark to shut down these Cyclones. As again, the Lings pop out. Again, the rally of Maru is going to have to deal with this, which slows the attack down. It slows what Maru wants to do down. And by the way, do I even need to say it? There's another run by on the north side. Serral's killed 39 SCVs, floods down the ramp as well, and he doesn't need to win one fight. He's okay with taking down the front line of Maru's army and going back because Maru has no money behind it. Maru will fall. Serral, 4 zeros. The best Terran player of all time. He wins IEM Katowice. And I think for my druthers, he cements himself as the best player of all time in the highest profile Maru Serral series we've ever had. Serral leaves no doubt that he is the better player, that he flummoxes him in this best of 7.